Dave. It's October, man.
I know.
Fall has arrived to Kentucky.
Yes, it has. I understand you've closed your pool, and I'm closing mine next week.
Well, yours gets a tarp pulled over it. Mine gets deflated, dried, folded, and moved to the garage.
Well, yeah, but they're both still closed. So,
well, welcome to the October edition of 12-Minute Modelsphere. What are we going to talk about, Dave? Let's talk about where we've been. We were at the MMCL Invitational a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, and there were some amazing models, man. 453 models, something like that.
Let's not get into the minutia of that. Let's back it up a level and just talk about shows in general, because that weekend, last weekend, and even this weekend, the internet is just full of shows.
Yes.
People are going, and we just want to encourage people to get out there and go. If they're in your area, go for it.
Absolutely. Listen, they are a value add. Just like joining and going to a local club is a big value add to your modeling experience. Go into a show, even if you don't enter, you get to walk around and peruse the vendors, and there's always something that you're interested in. You always end up buying something. And for me, one of the big things, other than the camaraderie, the getting to interact with people, many of whom that I don't see other than at shows, is the fact that you get to look at these great models. I mean, the level of quality's gone up, don't you think?
I think so. And just you got people building up. You know, we've always had people building at all levels, but maybe it's the quality of the kits and stuff that people are starting at a little bit of higher notch than we did.
I think that's absolutely true. I think that because the kits are so well engineered these days, that when you're starting out, you start out like somebody in the 80s did who'd been in it 5 years. That it's just that much of a boost, which is why I say we live in the golden time of modeling.
We do. And some would argue that, the golden age is when all these kits first started coming to be, plastic kits, et cetera, from wooden kits. But we're going to call it the golden age because there's just so much coming out at such a high quality level for the average kit.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Even the average Joe is coming out as good as most kits were 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Oh, yeah. No, and heck, Stugapalooza, every time I turn around, I see that, 2 or 3 Stug kits have been announced. I don't know what's going on, but it's amazing.
Well, Dave.
Yes.
Speaking of Stugapalooza, we should talk about the upcoming episodes.
Okay.
For October.
What are we doing in October?
Well, October is a 2-episode month. We do 26 a year, doing every other week. So we've got a couple of months that are 3 episodes, which are typically June or July, and then usually December.
Right.
But October is a 2-episode month. The first episode coming up, I think, October 9th, maybe?
Yes.
Evan McCallum, Mr. Panzermeister 36, is going to join us in the third chair.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about all things Mojo, according to our normal docket of segments. And then we're just going to have a conversation with Evan about being a YouTube modeler and then some of his aspirations as far as modeling on and off his YouTube channel.
Yep.
How's that sound?
Well, we interact with Evan from most days, nearly daily, over the internets, as the kids say. But, we saw Evan at the Nationals, and this will really be the first time post-Nationals that we'll be able to sit down with him and have a post-Nats conversation about what's gone on in his life since then. And then I've got tons of questions. I love Evan's YouTube channel, Panzermeister 36. I've watched, I think, nearly every video that he's done in the last 7 or 8 years. And I have lots of questions. They're really great, and I really enjoy them. And I've got a number of questions, both technical and getting his input on where it started, where it is, and where he thinks it's going as far as YouTube modeling videos. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Well, that's coming up next, not too long after this drops, actually, the Friday of the same week. The second episode for October is going to be a discussion between Dave and myself about aftermarket. Now, we got a listener mail. It's probably been 3-4 months at this point. Would aftermarket exist without the internet? And that question in itself was a good one, but
right.
I think the obvious answer to that is yes, if you've been at this as long as we have.
Right.
But I think we're going to roll the tape back and talk about aftermarket before the internet and what's happened over the last couple of decades, and then the current state of what's called technically air quotes aftermarket, because at this point, some of it's not aftermarket anymore because it's coming from the same companies who are making the kits.
Yes. It's clear that the answer, the base answer is that yes, it existed in some form before the internet, but like with everything, the internet had a radical impact on aftermarket, just like on models and on books and everything else. So I'm interested to talk about that because you and I go back at least long enough to remember some of the pre-internet days where you ordered something and you had no clue what it was going to be until you opened that box.
Yeah, and you saw it in a magazine and thought, ooh, yeah, I'm going to get that. Based on a 20-character byline.
Right. or somebody who had incorporated it in their model in the magazine where you only saw pictures of it after it had been used and maybe corrected.
All right, Dave. Well, that's what's coming up in October. Well, Dave, we're on the road again in October.
Yes, we are.
Where are we going to be?
Cincinnati at the Tri-State Warbird Museum. This is the show that we went to last year. It was the first time you and I had been there when they moved it due to reasons of COVID to the Tri-State Warbird Museum, which turned out to be a really, really nice facility. If you're within driving distance of Cincinnati on October 22nd, you ought to come up. And if you do, come up and say hi to us. The show's always a really good show. It's got great vendors. I'm looking forward to it. As I said after the MMCL show, every model show I go to jazzes me up to model, gives me more mojo.
Well, that's right. It's probably our last one for the year.
Yes.
I got a feeling.
I got a feeling too.
Well, there's not many on the calendar after November anyway, really, in our region.
Yeah. Well, even in other regions, the dead time is usually late November through January. And, it used to be a little farther, but then BlizzardCon moved into February. And so the show circuit for the year starts earlier than it used to.
Well, Dave, things have been happening on the Plastic Model Dojo.
Yes, it have.
We got a lot of new folks there. What are we up to now?
We're up to 935 folks who've joined. Keep in mind, that's a little less than 30 days from when we opened the thing up and announced it. I'm loving it. We're seeing lots of people, and not only lots of people, they're posting lots of their builds. And one of the reasons that you and I formed the dojo was so that we could see listeners' builds. And I'm telling you what, you guys are doing some impressive work. Those of you who've joined but haven't posted, please post some photos of your past builds, post photos of what you're currently working on, post photos of what modeling fluid you happen to be drinking while you're doing all of this. Because, those are some great conversations. I hear about beers and whiskeys and bourbons that I've never heard of, and we get some information. It's a good use of the hive mind. So those of you who've joined, please post. if you haven't joined, please go to Facebook and search out Plastic Model Dojo and find it and join the group. We'll get you approved right away. And if you've joined the dojo, but you don't listen to the podcast, please listen to the podcast. And since those people probably won't hear this, we'll post that on the dojo as well.
Well, Dave, we are probably getting close to our 12 minutes.
I think we are.
All right, man. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll see you in a few days talking to Evan McCallum. And we'll go from there.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward. Take care.